Thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a like and a comment.
And you can share with a friend if you enjoy it, and subscribe so you're notified of new videos.
Thanks and enjoy the show.
Do you ever feel like you need just a little more living area? Well, if you do, you got something in common with these homeowners.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford, the voice of home improvement, with projects, tips, and ideas to help you improve your home.
The story that Aaron and Carrie Mackey told me is one that I've heard many, many times over the years as a remodeling contractor. That they love the house, they love the neighborhood, they love the yard that they've worked on so much, but they need just a little bit extra living area. Now, we looked at building an addition on the back of the house, but the driveway proved to be a problem there. We looked at the other side of the house, but simply just wasn't enough room there. So the 700 square foot addition we're about to build will be right here on this end of the house. Now, architecturally, it should look great because it'll be a mirror image of an original wing of the house on the other end of the home, so everything should look like it was meant to be. Now, we'll start and finish this project within the next half hour, and our first step is to start on our foundation. So stay with us. As you can see, the work on this addition is well underway, and now the homeowners can get out and walk around on the slab and get a feel for the kind of space they're adding to their home. Now, the design work on this started several months ago with the homeowners determining exactly what they wanted to accomplish with the addition.
We just kind of looked into the surrounding homes in the area, and we were looking for some more space for our kids and that kind of thing. But yeah, we decided on a formal dining and den kind of study. Plus, we have family that comes into town, and we're looking for some space for them if they come in.
And well, we liked our location that we live in. Where we live has a lot of character, we thought, and we liked having being up on a hill, and we have a pool in the backyard. And
yeah, we've just done so much work that we really didn't want to leave, and the area it's conveniently located to everything. That was a major decision to stay.
And we only had an eating kitchen, and we wanted to have more space. And as far as with the office, we needed space for a computer, and we figured when our kids got a little older, they probably won't want to be watching the same things we are all the time. So we decided to have another family room.
Yeah, that way if they have friends over and they have their own little space to play in or watch TV or whatever.
One idea we thought is closing in our carport, but then we lose our parking. We didn't want to do that. We thought about building up, and it wasn't feasible in a lot of areas, and we really wanted a dining room, and we can't have a dining room not near the kitchen. So we wanted to build out, but we weren't sure how to do it with our roof line.
So we got a designer, and he gave us the best option of incorporating more space and lining up the roof line, the brick, all of that to make it look not like an addition.
In order to make the addition not look like an addition, we had to start with some excavation of Aaron and Carrie's lot to create a level area next to the house. After the footings were dug, we began building the forms for the concrete slab that would come next. Although forms are temporary, it's crucial that they be sturdy and accurately built. When those tons and tons of concrete start going into the hole, the forms are what separates a foundation from a real mess. They also become a reference point for the finishers as they establish a floor level that matches the existing house. After the concrete dried for a couple days, we were able to move forward with the start of the framing. And a small addition like this, we can frame the whole thing in just a couple days. But the first step is to secure the bottom plate, which is all pressure treated wood, to the concrete itself. Now, while we were pouring the concrete, we put a couple bolts in, a couple different types. This is a J-bolt that goes down into the concrete, and its primary purpose is to secure the plate to the concrete. Now, a second type is a little bit different. It also secures the plate down to the concrete, but it's a little longer so that it'll accommodate this little threaded sleeve that will be put on it later in the framing. Then into that, this long threaded rod that'll be secured in place. And that way, this will be drilled up through the top plate, the top wall, and into the roof structure itself so that we have a continuous tie down from the roof through the walls all the way down to the concrete itself. This is just one of the many codes that are being implemented throughout the country to make buildings stronger, so that in the event of heavy winds, it ties everything together down to the concrete itself. Now, to secure the plates on the interior walls is a little different. We actually use something that looks very similar to a drill, but it's a powder activated fastener that uses a .22 caliber load, and it forces a case hard nail or a concrete nail into the concrete itself, so that this plate is good and secure. Hey, the next step is to stand some walls. The walls are assembled on the slab, then lifted into position on top of their base plates. The studs are toe-nailed to the base plate according to layout lines marked earlier, and each new section is attached to the one that preceded it. This is a pretty effective way to construct walls as long as the layout of window and door headers is done accurately. The roof structure begins with the establishment of a new ridge to extend the ridge line from the existing house out over the new addition. Then the individual rafters are attached, completing the skeleton which is necessary to support the plywood roof deck. After all of the roof decking was in place, we rolled out a layer of 15-pound building felt. That'll keep everything dry until we can get our shingles in place. Now, after that, we installed half-inch plywood all the way around the outside of the addition and the fireplace chase to serve as our sheathing. Then a layer of home wrap to keep everything dry in between now and the time the bricks go up. Now, you may notice at this angle how we may have a potential problem here with water. All the water in the driveway coming down against the building here. Then the hole that we have here that can gain a lot of water that can force it inside. I'll show you how we're going to handle those problems when we come back right after our simple solution.
It's time for this week's Simple Solution from home repair expert Joe Truini.
I've seen few homeowners over the years that were comfortable drilling into ceramic tile.
That's because the very thing that makes tile perfect for the bathroom makes it extremely difficult to drill into, and that's the glazed ceramic surface. The problem is that a drill bit, even when you use the proper bit, which is a carbide tip masonry bit, has a tendency to wander around the surface as you start to drill. The surface is just too slick for the bit to start. So here's the solution. Take a couple of strips of masking tape and put them across the tile where you want to drill a hole. In this case, we're going to be putting up a small hook to hold the towel.
Okay, you're just creating a surface that will really grip the bit itself.
Right. It doesn't take much, just that little bit of tape. And here you'll see the bit will bite right into the tape and then eventually cut through this ceramic tile. Pull that away, you can see you have a nice clean hole. I didn't finish drilling it, but that gives you an idea. Then you go through the clay and into the wall behind it.
Now, I've seen people use a nail set to try to establish that, but if you hit that too hard, everything's going to
crack the tile, right? But if you're careful with it and just tap it enough, it'll crack just the glazing, and again, that will allow the drill bit to bite into the tile.
Everything's working out great on the outside of this addition, and the guys are concentrating right now on the fascia and the soffit and a few of the other details to complete the outside. Now, you know, it's not that unusual when you have an addition like this where you have a bit of a sloping lot that you're matching the floor level of the existing house, and when it extends out, you find out you're below grade a pretty good bit. This is something that can cause some serious problems with water seepage later on if it's not handled properly. Now, we're still exploring a couple different ways to handle this with the homeowner. One way that's been suggested is to cut the asphalt back a bit, let the brick mason bring all of the bricks up, then we'll put more asphalt down to slope it up to the brick face so that the water is channeled away and into a drain that we installed early in the process before the slab was even poured. Now, the drain is a drain basin that's about 16 by 16 and about 12 inches deep. It has two pipes going all the way out to the street to channel any of the water that gathers in this area all the way off the property. Now, over on this side, couple different ways. One, you see the window height here. We could slope the ground from here down so that the water is pulled away from the building and then channeled to the front. Or another idea is to create a retaining wall that comes out and turns that allows this grade to stay high, and we can slope the water out, and then the lower grade can be channeled to where it can be allowed to flow to the front. So got to make that determination pretty soon. But right now, with the weather starting to turn on us and it's about to rain, they're concentrating on completing everything they can on the outside of this addition. The woodwork on the existing house is a rough sawn cedar, so in order to match it, we'll be using the exact same type of material to trim out the addition. The guys are using a rough sawn cedar plywood for the soffits, rough sawn cedar 1x10s for the frieze board, and rough sawn 1x4s for the fascia board. Even the reverse board and batten siding for the gables is an unsanded cedar material. This careful attention to the materials used and the way they were joined together on the existing house all works towards the goal of making the new look like the old. There's no place where that's trickier than in the brick mason's job. Every new course of bricks has to line up with the old ones on the back and front side of the house. Our brick masons only have about 4 more feet on the front of this addition and all of the brickwork will be complete. Now, matching bricks on a 30-year-old house is a pretty hard task and really seems to be getting harder and harder because so many of the larger brick companies are consolidating, and what that means for homeowners, fewer choices in different brick styles. So before you add on to your brick home, make sure that you pick up a few of the bricks. Maybe you have some laying around in the flower bed or somewhere around your property. Grab a few of those, take a good color picture of your existing bricks, and then take that with you to the brickyard, because if you just can't match the bricks at all, then you really have some tough decisions on what to use for the exterior. Here, we've really lucked out because these bricks are matching up very nicely, and once the mortar has a chance to dry and to weather, they should just blend in and no one will know that we've added on to the front of this house, especially after the landscaping's done, and a little bit of time really makes a difference there. Now, another thing we've done to really make sure that no one will know we added on is we've matched a lot of the wood and the design of the wood. You can see the reverse board and batten on the old gable of the existing house, and all of the drip edge and frieze board is all matched exactly here. And once our painter gets through with all the stain work, we're in great shape. Now, the wind is really blowing a pretty bad storm in right now, and we're hoping that the brick masons can complete their work and have a little time to dry before the rain sets in.
Let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out this week's best new product.
Without a doubt, decorative curtain rods and curtains can make a big difference on how the interior of your home looks, but I don't know anyone that enjoys hanging curtain rods with all the little screws, and many times it's kind of difficult to get into some of the areas that you may be attaching the curtain rods, and it's particularly hard if you're dealing with a metal door that you have to drill the holes in order to mount the little brackets. Well, it's a lot easier now because Levelor has developed a cafe rod that's completely magnetic. No tools are needed, no holes have to be drilled. All you do is just put it in place, and this can expand out to 28 inches, so it'll fit just about any door or even a window if you have a metal surface around the window. Now, if you need another one of these, of course, you can buy another one to mount on the bottom of it to keep those shears or curtains nice and tight. Now, these are only about $12 a piece, and as I said, you don't have to break out the drill or do anything, and then later on, if you change your mind, you can take it right off and use it somewhere else. So if you're stuck with having to hang a cafe rod, life just got easier. Our brick masons have completed all of their work, and the mortar's starting to dry fairly well. Few more weeks, it'll blend right in. Also, our painters were out just the other day applying a coat of dark stain to all of our new wood, which most of that was cedar, to match the existing wood that also was cedar, and they put a fresh coat of stain on the existing house to make sure everything blends in. So really, all that's left out here is just a little bit of landscaping that the homeowners are planning to do after all of the construction work is complete. Now, while all of this work was taking place outside, inside was real busy. Once the addition was dried in, the electrician and the heating and cooling contractor went to work getting all of the wiring and ductwork into the walls and attic space. This work went pretty quickly, and since there wasn't any plumbing in the addition, it wasn't long before the drywall crew went to work covering up all the stud walls. The simple interior layout and the absence of plumbing on this project really made the interior work fly. In no time, the drywall was finished, painted, ready for the trim to be added. Now, most of this trim was stained and sealed to match the trim in the existing house before the guys began installing it. The tile setter took over the space next and began laying out the 12-inch by 12-inch tiles that will make up all of the flooring for this addition. Not a bad idea for a young family with small children. Outside, the excavation for the retaining wall got that part of the project kicked off, and we sloped the ground away from the house, and for an extra measure of protection, we decided to extend the retaining wall around behind the addition as well. All the blocks for our retaining wall took quite a while and was some pretty heavy work. These guys are pretty heavy to put in place one at a time, but it should work perfectly. After they were down, we rolled out a layer of landscape fabric. Now this is a nylon material that will block out any chance of weeds or any vegetation from growing in this area, but it will allow the rain to penetrate through the fabric down into the drainage pipes that we showed you earlier, running right along the wall itself. Now that drainage pipe's kind of unique in that it basically has some nylon stockings over it. It's called a sock pipe. And what the nylon does is it'll prevent any dirt from silting down into the pipes and possibly causing a clog later on down the road. Now they continue right on out into the front yard and will tie into 2 other drainage pipes that we put in right at the start of the project. Now after everything was down and everything was graded properly, then we came in with a nice thick layer of this limestone rock, and basically it works like any coarse gravel that you would use in a drainage system like this, still encouraging the water to drain down through into the drainage pipes, and then the water move to a safe location out on the city drainage right away. Now all of this is pretty much complete out here, a little more tweaking here and there, a few touch-ups inside, and we can show you this completed project right after our Around the Yard.
Let's head outside for Around the Yard with lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley.
Now it's amazing to me that vegetation and different little plants can find their way up through cracks in a sidewalk like this.
I've even seen them growing in the freeway.
Is that right? Well, and you really think that just pouring boiling hot water on the plants will kill them?
It does. I've done it. Watch. Now, just be real careful, you know, keep the little children away. But if we pour it all the way here, you can see the steam coming up. Oh, a little sauna.
Now, what's so bad about the total vegetation killers? I mean, they're a lot safer now than they were years and years ago. What would be a problem in using it in a situation like this?
Well, just as it's a little windy today, some of that wind could blow some of the mist over and kill or at least singe these pansies here.
Right.
And then also, just as we see the runoff from the water here, if there was some killer, you know, complete kill out, it could kill this whole edge here. Now, you know, we've done this, but if these are really persistent weeds, we might need to do it again. So we might need to check it in a couple of days.
Hey, speaking of persistent weeds, what about some of the broadleaf weeds like that? Will the boiling water take care of that?
Well, it would probably take care of it, but it also might take care of about a plate size around it. I mean, you know, it's very hard to gauge how much is going to go on. Well, Danny, you know, another really important thing about this water, the way to kill the weeds this way, is it's really not going to harm tile or wood or concrete or a lot of other surfaces that some of the others might.
We say it all the time. The best addition is one that doesn't look like an addition, and we kept that in mind when we started this addition that's 700 square feet a couple months ago. From the foundation to the framing of the walls, the roof structure, and certainly the paint color and the bricks themselves. Well, now that the mortar and the paint is dried, I think you'll agree it blends in like it's been there all the time. Once the Mackeys finish moving into the addition, it's certain they'll get plenty of use from the extra family room. The spare room should be ideal for out-of-town guests in addition to its use as the family office. The new dining room flows beautifully from the existing kitchen and should provide all the room they'll need for family meals. If you're thinking of adding an addition to your home, do what Aaron and Carrie did. Figure out exactly what you want to achieve with the addition, then find a contractor and designer that specialize in residential remodeling. And thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.